Okay, I think it's time to start. I want to thank you and welcome everybody who's going to join us today. Today we have Holly Smith. She's working with the University of Sussex and she's going to talk about Brexit and what's going to happen, how it worked to study in England after Brexit. Okay, Holly Smith, you're up.
Thank you so much, and hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you find this session useful. As I've just been introduced, that's right, my name is Holly Smith and I work in the international office at the University of Sussex, and today I'll be talking to you about studying in England post-Brexit. I'd be happy to take any of your questions at the time we have remaining at the end of the session. I've intentionally allowed time for questions and I will do my very best to answer them, bearing in mind that I don't work for the UK government, but as I said, I will certainly try my best. So what I'll be covering in today's session is the European Union tuition fee category shift, the EU settlement scheme, the new student route and graduate route visas, and healthcare and working in England as well. So to start with the EU fee category shift, so from the start of the next academic year, and in England that will start normally in September, but it could be as early as August 2021, European Union students will move from the home category, so that was previously the same as British students, to the overseas, otherwise known as international fee category. So that means European Union students will be counted the same as a student from America or Brazil or China or Australia, for example. So all non-UK students will be classed as overseas or international. This is a decision that's been taken by the UK government as a result of the Brexit vote. UK universities will set their own overseas student tuition fees. So previously, we all have to charge the same for the home rate, or a maximum amount for the home rate is capped. But for international fees, each university will decide their own fees. Now, the tuition fees will vary significantly between different universities across the country, and it can even vary at the same university between different degree programmes. For example, most universities will charge a higher amount for science or lab-based courses such as engineering or biology or chemistry, and then other programmes, things like history or English or journalism, perhaps, are normally less expensive to study. Now, this doesn't mean that you should study one or the other. It's just something to be aware of when you're making your decision about coming to study. Again, generally speaking, with overall tuition fee rates, you may find that universities in the Russell Group or in really big cities like London tend to charge more than universities outside of the Russell Group and or in smaller towns or cities. So again, if fees are likely to be a real consideration for you, then make sure you look at a range of different universities to see what they offer. Now, as I've just explained, whilst universities cannot control the fact that European Union students have moved into the overseas fee category, what some universities may be in a position to do is offer a funding package. Now, some universities may offer things such as scholarships or fee discounts or fee waivers or even bursaries. So all of these things will take a percentage or an amount of money off of the international tuition fee rate for that university. Every university in the UK is in a different financial position at the moment because of Brexit, because of the pandemic as well. So we are expecting there to be a significant variation in financial packages that are available. Some universities may not have anything available and others may have very large packages available. Most universities are still yet to announce their 2021 overseas fees and funding packages. So if you are already looking at the UK as an option, please bear in mind that the universities you may be looking at, they may not have announced their fees yet. This is normal, but it of course takes some getting used to. Now, scholarships can be based on a number of things. It may be that they can offer a scholarship to all EU citizens, or it may be based on more traditional scholarship methods such as academic merit, so your high school or your university grades, or your sport or your music talent, for example. Each university, as I said, can offer something entirely different, and it's up to them what they are able to offer. So please do check individual university websites or speak to the education advisors that are running this education day, and they will be able to tell you more information as well about UK universities. In terms of the EU settlement scheme, this is relevant for students who want to stay in the UK after the 30th of June 2021, and as long as you can prove that you are living or have lived in the UK on or before the 31st of December this year, 2020. You can also apply if you can show evidence of living in the UK in the past 6 months. So do think back if you have visited the UK this year in the last 6 months and you have the correct evidence to show, and I'll show you a link to where you can find what evidence you need later on, then I would encourage you to consider applying for this scheme. The EU settlement scheme is free of charge to apply to, and you can apply for it from outside of the UK as well. If your application is successful, you'll be awarded one of two outcomes. You will either get settled or pre-settled status, and I'll explain what they are in just a minute. The main benefit of applying through the EU settlement scheme is it will allow you to continue living, studying and working in the UK without the need for a visa. The two outcomes that you can get, as I mentioned, is either settled or pre-settled status. Now, settled, you generally will only get if you have been continuously living in the UK for a minimum of 5 years. So I would imagine for most of you tuning in, this probably doesn't apply to you. However, if it does, it means that you can remain in the UK indefinitely, and if you choose to, you can apply for British citizenship. Most of you, if relevant, would get pre-settled status if you were to successfully apply through the EU settlement scheme. This means that you can remain in the UK for up to 5 years, and then after that, if you choose to, you can apply for settled status. And just remember, even with pre-settled status, this allows you to work as much as you like in the UK, and you can of course continue studying, and you can come in and out of the UK as much as you like during that time, without the need for a visa. So for the students who do require the visa, this is for anyone who is entering the UK on or after the 1st of January 2021, and as long as you want to stay in the UK for longer than 6 months. So for those of you who may be considering coming to the UK as a visiting, an exchange or a study abroad student for less than 6 months, you won't need a visa. This is really relevant for students who may want to come and do a full degree, so either a bachelor's or a master's in the UK. The visa is called the student route visa. The application system opened in October this year. You do need to pay for this. It's not free like the EU settlement scheme, and the application fee for this is £348. It's a one-off payment that you make to apply for your visa. With regard to healthcare and working in England as well, we have a national health service, and they will charge per year to use that service. So the NHS surcharge is £470 per year. This will cover all of your public medical care. So that's things such as doctor, using a nurse, dentists, if you need to visit a hospital, if you need any medical procedures, including operations, hopefully you won't, but if you do, they would be covered. Or if you need to see a pharmacy or an optician, as an example. You would need to pay this if you require the student route visa, and this actually forms part of your visa application. If you have gained pre-settled or even settled status, then you won't need to apply and pay for this NHS surcharge. Additionally, under your student route visa, you should be able to work for up to 20 hours per week during term time. UK universities are known for being really supportive, and we have very active careers offices, so they are there to help you if you would like to get a part-time job. UK universities as well recommend that students don't work any more than 15 hours per week. So generally speaking, that would be a Saturday job, so working 9 to 5 on a Saturday and a Wednesday evening, something like that. That would be a good amount for a student to work if they choose to. However, you can work up to 20 hours a week on this visa. If you have the pre-settled status, then there is no limit to what you can work. However, even if you come in under the visa, you will have that restriction on the amount you can work during term time, but during the vacation or holiday period, you can work an unlimited amount if you want to. So that would be the equivalent to a full-time job. So you could, during the summer holidays, do a university internship if you want to, or you can actually undertake a university work placement. Your visa will allow you to undertake a work placement if this is part of your degree course. And as I just mentioned, UK universities have very active and supportive career services. So they are there throughout your entire experience in the UK to help you get a part-time job if you want to, or an internship, a work placement, and of course a graduate job as well if you choose to. That leads me on to the graduate visa. So after you finish your degree in the UK, whether that's a bachelor's or a master's, once you have finished studying, you would then move to what's called a graduate visa. Now, as a graduate, you can remain in the UK for up to 2 years after you have finished studying. If you are doing a PhD, after you complete that, you actually get an extra year. You can stay in the UK for up to 3 years after you graduate. Whilst you're on this graduate visa, you can get a full-time job, of course, if you want to. And during that time, if you get a job where the place where you'd be working wants to give you a working visa, you can move from this graduate visa into a different visa route. A lot of companies and organisations would do this in the UK, so it's not something to worry about at the moment. It certainly exists and it's very common at the moment. And then after that, you would go with whatever visa rules your new visa would allow you to do. Bearing in mind as well that if you originally came in under the one of the settled status, you may already be eligible to apply for pre-settled status. You may be eligible by this point to apply for settled status anyway, so you would never have the need for the visa anyway. I've got some sources up on the screen at the moment that I just wanted to run through with you before I allow a good amount of time for questions, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions there. So on the screen at the moment, lots of these are good sources of information that is from our government. There's lots of interpretations of different forms of our government information out there, so I wanted to provide you with some of the direct routes. So there is information about studying in the UK, specific guidance for European Union students. There is also information on the EU settlement scheme and how to apply for the EU settlement scheme. As I mentioned, it's free to do so. And if you think you are eligible, I can't stress enough, it's really, really worth applying. You have actually until the end of June 2021 to make the application. But I would encourage you to make the application as soon as you can, just to get it out of the way with, and then you know it's done and that you know you have your pre-settled or perhaps settled status. So everything is then sorted for you. As I mentioned again, if you visited the UK within the last 6 months, do have a look on here about what evidence you would require to submit if you think you may be eligible to still apply through the settlement scheme, even if you are not currently living in the UK. There is a large organisation called the British Council. You may have heard of them. They work all over the world, not just with UK universities. They work with a number of different things in the UK, but specifically with education. They provide a lot of advice for European Union students, and they have their own up-to-date information page, which comes directly from the government. There's also information about the student route visa available there. So it has information specifically for European Union students. Students from all over the world will be applying for this visa, but there is information there specifically for European Union students to help you talk you through the process with the transition, etc., and exactly how it all works. And as I mentioned, it is open now for application if this is relevant for you. There's also, as I said, the actual application link on there. And then finally, the acronym it says right at the bottom there is known as UKISA. It stands for the UK Council for International Student Affairs. This is a really, really useful and impartial website. So it's not affiliated with any particular university like my own as such, but they speak on behalf of all universities, and they have up-to-date information for students from all over the world, but they have a very large and comprehensive Brexit section, which is the bit that I've highlighted in the sources there for you. Thank you very much, everybody. I know that was a lot of information to run through, so I'd like to take this opportunity to answer any questions you may have. And if you would like me to go over anything again, I would be really, really happy to.
Thank you very much, Holly. Nice Christmas tree in the back there.
Why, thank you. I'm pleased you noticed.
Is there anybody who has any questions? All right, we have from Tove Pettersson. What's the biggest difference between a student route visa and the EU settlement scheme?
Sure. So the student route visa, so if I'm going to flick back a few slides. So the student route visa here on the screen at the moment is relevant for students who are entering the UK for the first time from January the 1st, 2021. It's something that you would need to pay for as well, so that's a significant difference, and it allows you to study in the UK and remain in the UK for up to 2 years after you study. The main difference between that and the settlement scheme is students on the settlement scheme will have no restrictions on their work, their healthcare. They can access, they don't have to pay extra for that either, and they can spend a longer amount of time in the UK on this settlement scheme and even apply for British citizenship at the end if they want to get settled status. So that's the main difference. I would really, really encourage you, if you feel you are eligible to obtain, I'll go back to the previous slide, if you are eligible for the EU settlement scheme, it's really, really worth the application. It will save you some money, which obviously is great. Everybody likes saving money. There's literally no bad thing about getting the pre-settled status. It will allow you to continue to access all of our public services for free, and it will allow you to work as much as you like in the UK whilst you're here on that status.
Okay, just for you guys asking questions, please make sure you write to all panels and attendees, because if you write only to panels, only we can see it. The students in the chat room cannot see it. On top of that, I have a question just to be answered. If you have the pre-settled status, are you considering being a home student? So you have the same fee as a British, or is it still international fees?
That's a really great question, and it's something that we are working to clarify for sure at the moment. In fact, I was in a meeting earlier with the Home Office, which is part of the UK government, and they're looking at getting some clearer information out within the next few weeks. The bottom line of it is the EU settlement scheme and the fee status are actually two separate things. There are links between the two, but one doesn't equal the other. So getting pre-settled status is one thing, and that's great, but to obtain home fees, so back to the same rate that British students pay, there is an additional residency requirement. Normally, that means you would have to have been living in the UK for up to 3 years, or sorry, for at least 3 years before the start of your degree programme. And the reason for living in the UK must not have been for the reason of education. For example, if you've been studying in the UK at a boarding school, for example, then that wouldn't count. So we are looking for further clarification to outline exactly what the criteria is to get home fees, but it's not an automatic, if you get pre-settled, you will definitely get home fees.
So we have another question from Masood. Regarding scholarships, do we need to check them with the specific university we're applying for? I had contact with you, Masood, so yes, every university have their own scholarships, depending on bursaries and stuff like that. So depending on what the university you're looking at, we have to check with them. Some has not made any decision yet regarding the bursaries, and some has already. Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
And Thomas Musi asking, the fees for accommodation, will they change after Brexit for international students?
That's a really good question. We're not expecting accommodation fees to change. At the moment, universities that have accommodation available, and most of us do, a British student would be charged the same as a Swedish student, who would be charged the same as a student from Canada, for example. There's no difference in the cost of living. There's no difference in the amount you would pay for your food, any other additional services, which includes your accommodation whilst you're in the UK. So your rent would be exactly the same. Before, the only thing that would change if you come in on the visa is that you have to pay for the visa itself, and you would have to pay the extra to use our healthcare services.
And Alex G is asking, what proof of funding will be needed for the visa? Will a CSN letter be enough? A CSN letter is basically a decision that you will get student loan and government grant. Would that be enough to get the visa, to apply for the visa?
We would normally give, so you need something that's called a confirmation acceptance of studies. The acronym is known as a CAS, and that is what is issued by a UK university when we have confirmed your place with us. So you would need to wait to get this confirmation of acceptance of studies from the university, and then you would normally use that to apply for your visa. If there's any funding that you are bringing in as well, then that would be the point to introduce that, but you actually can't apply for a visa until you have a confirmed place at an unconditional place at a university.
So Thomas Hughes is asking, when you applied and received pre-settled status, how long can you be away from the UK without losing it?
That's a really good question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will double check because I think I have that on the screen in front of me. You can come away from the UK for a certain amount of time. Presettled status. So presettled status would be lost after a continuous absence of more than 2 years from the UK. So that would, so if you're away for more than 2 years, then you would definitely lose it once you have the pre-settled status.
We have a question that students sometimes ask us about. It's regarding if you want to get the pre-settles before the end of the year, would they be able to travel there, stay there for perhaps a week? Would that be enough time to apply for pre-settled status and then go back?
There's actually no minimum amount of time a student needs to be living in the UK in order to apply for pre-settled status.
So technically you could fly in, go for the weekend, show proof that you stayed at an Airbnb, and then apply for pre-settled, but you still need to get the confirmation of the status before you go back to Sweden, or can you apply after you're back to Sweden?
You don't have to apply in the UK. And as I said, I can't promote the idea of travelling internationally in the middle of a pandemic. I would never want a student to risk the health of themselves or others that they would come into contact with. However, if they are choosing to visit the UK, then they only need to prove that they have lived in the UK for a minimum of 1 day. So there's no minimum requirement apart from staying overnight. So they need to be able to prove an address and that they have entered the UK, such as a flight ticket, for example, and then they should be able to use that to apply for pre-settled status. I don't know the exact turnaround time from the Home Office. I did ask that question today, but they weren't able to answer it, which is quite frustrating. But from what I can gather at the moment, it's a relatively quick turnaround time. But as I said earlier, just to confirm, you can actually make the application from outside of the UK. So once you return to Sweden, you can make the application then if you want to, as long as you have the minimum amount of evidence they require. There's a number of things you can submit as evidence. We've just discussed a couple of them.
Excellent. Is there any other questions?
I do appreciate it's complicated, and so I wanted to thank everyone who's tuning in, and I also would like to take the opportunity to reassure any of you who are considering coming to the UK that despite Brexit and despite the pandemic, the UK continues to welcome over 500,000 international students every year to our universities. We are still welcoming. We still would love you to apply. We have the same excellent degrees. We have some of the best universities in the world. Our degrees are still recognised and we still offer a fantastic student experience. So if you still choose to come to our country and our universities, we will always welcome you with open arms and we can promise you a fantastic time.
Excellent. So it seems to be a bit quiet. If anybody has any more questions, please let us know. Other than that, thank you very much, Holly. And
thank you so much for having me.
It was a perfect presentation. Please send that over. I'll share that with our students as well if they're interested.
Of course, I'd be so happy to.
And for you other listening, if you want to, you can stay for another at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a crash course in Korean. So if you want to do like a 15-minute crash course how to learn Korean, please stay and listen more.
That sounds great.
Other than that, thank you so much, Holly. Have a nice evening. And
thank you, and the same to you.
Ni andra, vi kommer att köra igång klockan 7 med nästa föreläsning och då kommer det vara en föreläsning där man läser koreanska. Det kommer vara en inspelning så ni kan jättegärna lyssna på det. Det kommer vara 15-20 minuter. Ja, då kör vi igång ungefär 7 minuter. Annars om ni har några frågor så är ni jättevälkomna att kontakta oss sedan. Ha det så bra så länge. Tack ska ni ha.